Hey everybody, and welcome to another Spindle TV training session. My name is Laney Shaughnessy. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for that. For all of you that have joined me before and joined me each week, thanks for coming back. Looking forward to tonight's class because it's something that we all run into each time we are either creating a new design or we might be importing a file that we've purchased online or that was given to us, and it has to do with we're going to import a DXF file into our design, and it's going to require a little bit of cleanup, a lot of cleanup actually, because of the open vectors and things for the type of carving that we want to do with it. So we're going to go through and we're going to do some cleanup and look at the process or the approach to this particular design. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right on into it, and we'll get over to, I believe I am on camera 3, and let's get me down in the lower left hand corner here. Wonderful. All right, so hopefully you're all doing well this evening, and again, appreciate you hanging out. All right, so in my Vectric software, I have just a generic job set up. The size is a single-sided job. It's 20 by 20 by 3/4. I'm working from the machine bed for the Z0 touch off if I were going to carve this. And for the XY datum, we're going to start in the center of the board. With that being said, let's go ahead and click OK. And the first thing that I need to do is import the file. And it's going to be a DXF. So here in the file operations of our software, we've got import vectors, a little folder, import vectors here, and that's what a DXF is. It is a vector file. And we're going to find our DXF file and we're going to open it up. All right. From there, let's go ahead and get it centered on the material. And then let's get it sized up a bit so we can all see what's happening here. All right. And so this was a file that was given to me or sent to me by a customer that was having a hard time closing off the vectors and wanted some guidance and asked if I had a video that kind of specifically covered this type of thing. And I said, no, but you know, if you don't mind me using the design as an example, then, you know, of course we can do it in class tonight and we can come up with that design. So the problem with this design is if we take a close look, let's look at some of the chain links over here. We have open vectors where the lines intersect with one another. They don't close off properly. They dead end, and sometimes in some cases they don't actually dead end. They don't complete or extend to another line. And therefore, if I tried to V-carve this right out of the gate, if I tried to create a V-carve toolpath on this, I'm going to get a little warning saying, hey, there's 38 open vectors here. They're going to get ignored, and we'll go ahead and carve the rest if you click OK. Well, you know, it's going to carve a little deep because of those open vectors. You know, normally it wouldn't. So let's go ahead and set a flat depth in here. We'll just go 1/8 of an inch. Just for example purposes. And, you know, in our carving, this is what we get, you know, so only the outline basically and the J and the E, you know, show up in this carving, nothing else. So we've got some work to do to get this to be a carvable design, and, you know, we can go from there. Now, one of the things that if we take a look at, let's go ahead and turn this off and delete this toolpath. What would happen, what kind of result would I get if I did a profile cut? Because on a profile cut, I can carve a profile, an open vector with a profile toolpath. Well, let's look and see what type of result that we get from doing a profile toolpath, and I'll just go 1/8 of an inch here. And I'm going to use a V-bit. We'll use the 60-degree V-bit. And grab my 60 here. And now we're going to go on the line. We'll go on the line for right now. And we'll calculate this. And, you know, as a, you know, profile toolpath, it is following all the lines. So I'm getting all the vectors here. And if we preview this cut, you know, let's turn off the colors and all. We end up with a carving of this chain and everything. And so, you know, that may be satisfactory. We may say, hey, call it good. It carves as a profile cut, you know, and things like that. But we might want to do something a little bit different. We, you know, instead of the bit following the lines, we may want, you know, certain things to be carved down, other things to be carved up. We may want to try to bring out the chains a little bit more. And this whole thing, we might even put a border around this so that we carve everything around it away and have that design kind of standing proud, you know, kind of raised up. Well, we wouldn't be able to do that with our profile cut. You know, we would need to do that as a V-carve cut, but right now with all these open vectors, we can't V-carve it. So as a profile cut, that is an option because a profile cut will follow those open vectors. And, you know, as it stands, not a bad looking, you know, design. If I added a little bit of color to this, you know, not too shabby and everything. But let's see if we can do one better and do some cleanup on this. Now, the first thing that I'm going to look at is I'm going to try to identify, select all open vectors, and try to identify what those open vectors are and why they're open. So let's start up here with the A and M. The reason why the A and M are open is because that they dead end into the J here. And the M is kind of crossed over here. You know, it's all kind of one vector that's going around. And they kind of, our other letters kind of dead end to that as well. So all these vectors are open because there's no closure to them. All right. So now that I know what areas that I'm working on, now I can go through and start to fix them. All right. And so one of the ways that I can fix them, and I'll start with the letters here, is the letter A. We'll grab this and this down here, and I'm going to join it with a straight line. Okay. So let's go over, let's get out of the toolpath side so we can focus on the drawing tools and all. And so with these two vectors selected, I'm going to join them with a straight line and get a straight line here. Okay. Now, when I did that, when I clicked on join with a straight line, there was a second line that got connected as well. And so I'm going to undo that and find out where that second line was. And I think it's going to, you know, be somewhere where one of my corners or something is not quite intersecting, because it did require me to do a second click when I join with a straight line, and it's right up here. So it's bringing the A over the J here, and when I click it a second time, it's closing it off there. All right, so that will take care of that. But now I need that A to wrap around that J to give that illusion of the J being, you know, on top or what have you. And that's going to be the subtract tool. So we're going to use the, or I'm sorry, not the subtract tool, the trim tool. We're going to use our straight trim tool, not our interactive trim with our scissors, but our straight trim tool. And we're going to be clearing inside of a boundary. And this J is going to be the boundary. And so what I'd like to do is, before I start, you know, creating offsets and things like that, I want to create a new layer here. And I want to give this layer a kind of a red color. And I want it to be active so that way when I create things I can kind of see my work progress. Now it may not work out like I hope where everything kind of goes into that layer, but we'll work our way to it. Now when I use the trim tool, if I trim this straight away to the boundary, it's just going to go where these lines overlap. It's literally going to wrap that A around that J. And I want to give a little bit of clearance. Okay, I don't want it to really overlap. I want a little bit of a clearance between those. So I'm going to use my J and I'm going to offset it outward just a small amount, 10,000ths of an inch, 20 thousandths, I'm going to go 10 thousandths. And I'm going to offset it outward to create this little offset. And that offset is going to be my boundary. So I will select this text here that's overlapping this. I will hold down the shift key and I will select that boundary last. And then I will use my trim tool to clear inside that boundary. So when I do that, it will draw that A and everything around that boundary. If I go ahead and delete that boundary out, now my A is wrapping around that J, and they're not over, they're not, those lines aren't intersecting or overlapping, and the vector is still closed. So if I come over here, this vector, my A here, it is now a closed vector. So if I come in here and verify that, I can verify that in the vectors tool. Okay. All right, so now that that's taken care of, I can go ahead and select all open vectors, and now I have my S, and so my S is going to be the same way with regards to the E. So let's focus on the S here, and again I'm just going to join it with a straight line, and where it's joining with that straight line, it's coming right down that line. Those two ends are connecting, and it's hard to see because the E is right behind it. But if I bump this E over once, twice, you can see that straight line that was connected, right? Let's put that back. Let's undo, Control Z. There we go. What I want is, I want a little bit of spacing. So I'm going to select that E, and I'm going to offset it outward 10 thousandths of an inch. And that's going to be my boundary. So I'll select the S first, hold down the shift key, select that boundary last, and I'm going to trim, clearing inside that boundary. And then I can go back and delete that boundary. Now I don't keep the boundary, even if I have to create that boundary 3 or 4 times to fix the U and things like that. I'll recreate that boundary over and over again until all my letters and everything are done. But I'll get rid of it. I don't want a bunch of lines laying around and stuff. I'm using them for a purpose. I'm using that offset for a purpose. Once that purpose is complete, then I will eliminate it. Okay? And so now the S is a closed vector. Okay? So if I right click and select all open vectors, James, as far as the name of, it's done. So now I have the word group, and I'm working my way basically kind of top down. All right, let's take a look here, and we'll start over on the left hand side. Now the G has a couple of issues. So it intersects into the J and also into the R here, and we need to do the same thing and clean that up. My R also has an issue because it's intersecting with the A and the J, and so I've got to kind of start working my way around. And so what I'm going to do is I need to be able to use the R as a boundary. I need to be able to use the R as a boundary, but I also need to be able to use the J as a boundary again, just like I did with the A. So let's start up here with the J first, and I'm going to offset it outward, that 10,000ths of an inch. I'm going to take my G on these two lines here, and I'm going to join them with a straight line. Okay, so I've joined those two ends with a straight line, and once again, with that selected, I'm going to hold down my shift key, select on that boundary last, and I'm going to clear inside that boundary. And then I'm going to come back and delete my boundary, right? Now, of course, bear with me a second. When I did that, when I cleared outside the boundary, it took the G and kind of wrapped the line around over this way. What I need to do is I need to watch, and let's get focused right in on this and watch what happens. When I select my object that I want to create, there goes my bit rate was cranking before we started class. All right. Sorry guys, we're experiencing a little bit of freezing again tonight. I worked on it all week and had it, but now all of a sudden it's dropped down. Something is throttling my internet. So we'll just bear with me. We'll get through it. I'm watching the screen, and I'll keep an eye on that and try to make sure that we stay up to date. But when I select the letter G and select that boundary last, and I clear inside that boundary, okay, I need to make sure that it draws that G around this way. But if I delete that boundary, notice that it did not connect my G here. Okay, it didn't do anything with it. It, pretty much kind of redrew the G line all the way around the edges and stuff. So it's not the optimal effect that I want. So I need to, first off, I need to create both my straight lines. So I need to join this G with a straight line once, twice, to make it a closed vector. Okay, so now it's a closed vector, and now I should be able to select my boundary, my offset, and clear inside that boundary. And once I do that, once it's a closed vector, I can now delete that boundary, that J, and it's closed it off properly. The reason why it wasn't closing it off before is because the G was open vectors, right? It had two complete separate sections. I needed to join them together, straight line, just to get some closure there. And then I had to trim, okay? Then I had to trim. So working our way down. Now, the bottom part of the G here, all right, it's closed off with an open vector, it's not an open vector, it's closed because there is a straight line here, but I don't want it that way. I want to have a little bit of that offset on it, okay? I need that offset between, I don't want my lines overlapping because that could potentially cause all the issues. And, someone's asking, could you weld the letters? No, in this case, no, it's not the case. You can't weld the letters, okay? These letters have, they're not one word like we're trying to get rid of overlapping lines. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create the illusion that the J is over top of the A, the R is over top of the G, and things like that. We're trying to create the illusion that these letters are kind of staggered and stacked on top of each other. So welding would not work because welding would just blend it all together. Okay? So, Fozzie Bear, cool nickname. That's why we're doing it this way. So we still create that illusion where one is behind the other. Okay, so welding would not be the appropriate option here. Now on the R, before I can really use the R as a boundary or offset it to create the illusion or to do our trimming, I need to close off the R. So I'm going to take, I've got the R selected here, and I'm going to join it with a straight line. So it's coming across here. Okay. Now I'm working one letter at a time, so I'll focus on the top of the R in a minute, but right now I'm working on the G. I need to finish the G before I move to the R. And so now I can go ahead and offset that R outward, that 10,000ths of an inch, to create my boundary. And then I can select my G, hold down my shift key, select that boundary line last, and that's why I have it on another layer, because it's red. You'll notice that boundary line, you can barely see it, but it's red here, and so it's kind of my visual. It shows me what line I'm working with as my boundary. And so I'll select my G, I'll come in and select that boundary line, and then I will subtract and clear inside the boundary, and then I can go ahead and delete that boundary line. And now I've got a closed vector, and I've got my spacing that I need. So my G is fully closed, and I've got my spacing that I need so my lines aren't overlapping. Okay? All right. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. It's fresh and new for today. Now, I've got up here, I've got two things going on. Okay? So I've got my J and my A as a boundary, and I need the R to kind of wrap around them. I need it hidden behind them, basically. Now, if I select both of these, only one can be the last selected vector. All right. I may be able to group these two together so the software treats it as one object. And when I select the R first and I select my JA last, I can go in and trim and clear inside that boundary, and it treats it as one object. But I need to offset first, right? So let's go ahead and offset that JA outward, that 10,000ths of an inch. Okay. Now I want you to notice what happened when I offset it. It kind of, let's get rid of this and let's select just the JA and offset it outward. There we go. Make sure you don't have the R selected when you're doing that. Now I'll select my R first, that boundary line last, and rinse and repeat, guys. Rinse and repeat. Trim clear inside that boundary, and then I'm going to delete that boundary. And now my R is closed off. Okay, so now when I come in here and select all open vectors, I've only got the OUP to deal with, and then the chain links. Now the chain links are going to be the most work that we have to do and everything, but we are slowly getting across. And let's get rid of this red line here. We're slowly working our way across one thing at a time. Okay. All right. So for our O, very simple. We need it to kind of wrap around this M, or at least, kind of create that illusion. And really, I kind of just need it to go a straight line and then up right here. I don't need the O to go into this line and all. So what I want to make sure of is when I offset this outward 10,000ths of an inch, that when I select this O, open my trim tool back up, and I select this M, first of all, let's close the O off with a straight line. Got to do that first. So join with a straight line. There we go. Now, when I select that O first and that M last, when I clear inside that boundary, what I don't want is I don't want that O going up into the line. So let's get rid of our boundary and see if our O closed off properly. And it did. It closed off exactly like we needed it to. So, so far it's pretty straightforward. Creating a boundary, trimming, joining a closed vector, and then trimming that vector to that boundary so it overlaps. And you have that illusion of the O behind that M and things like that. All right, so that leaves our U. Now our U, we're going to select this here, and we're going to join with a straight line. We got to join twice. Join with a straight line once, twice to close off that U. And my E is going to be a boundary, and my S, very small part of the S, is going to be a boundary. So we will do one at a time. So let's do the E since they're not connected as one. Let's offset the E outward. Select the letter U. Select the boundary. Clear. Use our trim tool and clear inside that boundary. Get rid of the boundary of the E. And then we need to deal with the S. There's only a small amount. I mean, I could almost node edit that and bring that in. Now, on my U here, I want to straighten this line up. It's a little crooked, and it's kind of designed that way, but I want to go ahead and straighten it up a little bit since this one is straight over here. And now I'm going to jump into node editing to fix this. And in node editing, I'm going to select this node first. This is the node I want to align to. I'm going to select this node last. This is the node I want to align, and I need that line to go up. So I'm going to hit the letter Y because up and down is the Y axis. And I'm going to bring that line up. Okay. And on my S here, I'm going to offset that outward, that 10,000ths of an inch. Select my U. Select the boundary, trim, clearing inside that boundary, and then delete the boundary, right? So now my U is closed off and ready to go. So select all open vectors. We just have the P to deal with, and then we're into the chain links. Okay? All right. And the A and the M are not joined correctly. The base is wrong, Michael Pearson says. Let's first of all ungroup the J and the A now. The A and the M, they're not joined at all. The lines look like they're touching and everything, but they're not. You know, we have the M over here and the A over here. So Mike, let me know when you say the base is wrong. Let me know what you're referring to. Okay? The A and the M, because they are not joined at all. They are two separate closed vectors. They are two separate closed vectors. So let me know what you mean. Okay? All right. On the P, we're going to join that with a straight line. Shoot that line across here. We're going to offset the S, select our P, select our boundary offset, and trim. And then we can delete our boundary. All right. So now the only remaining open vectors are our chain links. Okay. So now at least when I carve, if I were to carve this, and let's turn off this and this, this and this, deselect that and that. I can at least now V carve this, and I don't want a flat depth on it. I'll just use a 60-degree V-bit. All right, there's still one open vector that I have selected somewhere, and we'll ignore that for the moment. All right, let's find out where that open vector is. Select all open vectors. it's not in my group sign, so let's select that again and calculate. Oh, I need a flat depth in there. I forgot this thing is 20 inches big. Let's go 1/8 of an inch and calculate that. Reset the preview, preview the visible toolpath. Okay, so that's one way that we'd carve it, but I'm actually going to, we're going to end up putting kind of a boundary around this so that it's raised up. And if we did that, just to give you a general idea, let's offset this outward. Let's go 1/8 of an inch. We'll delete this in just a moment. It's for visualization. Calculate that toolpath. Preview that visible toolpath. And now we get our James group. Now, notice my 10,000ths of an inch line here didn't carve very deep. You see that? Because it's only 10,000ths of an inch, that spacing. So if I give myself an extra, let's say 0.02 start depth and preview that visible toolpath. Okay. Now I've got my simulation quality turned down very low. For time's sake and everything. But we'll turn that quality up. And so now you can see clearly our lines and things. So we're part of the way there. Okay, now we just need to work on the chain links, you know, the chain links and all. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete this boundary. That was just there for carving visualization purposes and stuff. But now I need to look at my chain links, and I need to figure out, now we kind of got like almost a three-dimensional element. We got one thing overlapping another. How do these vectors close off, you know, because they kind of wrap around and everything, and we need to kind of create that that separation as well, and give that illusion that one link is behind another and another and another and things like that, with, you know, these lines on top and all. So we've got to figure out the proper way, you know, what's going to be the best way for me to close this off. Now, the thing that we have to deal with is when I come in and create my offsets and stuff, I got to determine which way it's going to offset, inward or outward, to create the illusion of these chain links. And these are things, you know, this was a DXF file that someone had made for them, or I don't know how it was generated and stuff, but it's great as a profile cut, but that's not the goal. We want a V-carve because we may want to create that three-dimensional illusion. Hell, I may want to take this and turn it into, if I had a spire, I may want to turn this into a 3D model. You know, give those chains some curves to them and things like that. In order to do that, I have to have those closed vectors to create those shapes and stuff. And if I was doing it in Aspire, it'd probably be a little bit easier because I could just close off the actual links as a whole, and then I could merge, you know, I could build that model and merge them together. But we're not in Aspire. We're in VCarve Pro, and we're V-carving this. Now let me know that if any of my words, when we do buffer or when the screen freezes a little bit, let me know if you're losing any of my words. Like if it's actually recording everything I'm saying even when it's frozen and it catches up to itself. Or let me know if you're hearing me go, oh, ooh, wait, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? Let me know. All right. All right, so let's see here. Let's take a pause for a minute before we get into the chains, and let's go into some questions. So Fozzie Bear jumps in and says the bottom of the right side of the A is not a straight line. The bottom of the right side of the A is not a straight line. Okay, so the base is wrong. That's what you're saying. All right, and then Mike says the left side of the M goes down to the base of the A rather than forming the base of the M. So the letters are straight lines, and so what they're saying is right here on the A and the M, this illusion, this A is supposed to be coming out at an angle, and it's most likely going to be, if this M was coming down as a straight line, it's most likely supposed to be overlapping. So let's redraw the design to follow what they're saying. So I'm going to go into node editing mode. I'm going to delete this span here. And then I'm going to use my extend tool, and I'm going to extend that line from here to create that straight line M. Okay. Let's get that. Let's use that extend tool again. Turn the corner there, everybody. Okay. All right. So to create that straight line M that we have, just like the other side, and the A needs to be closed behind the M, right? So on the A, I need this M to be offset, that 10,000ths of an inch, right? So we'll go into here and we will offset that 10,000ths of an inch, 0.01. I will take my letter A and select it first. I will select the boundary of that M last. I will trim to clear inside of that boundary to redraw that. And then I will delete my boundary. And now my A is extending and it's going behind the M. So the M is overlapping the A. So part of that A is hidden behind it. Now, otherwise, we could have the A over the M. You know, I don't know which way this person wants it, but the A could extend since it's behind the J. We could have the A extend over the M and trim the M to the A. I'm not sure which way to do it because, you know, it could be one way or the other. So let's look at it the other way. So let's go undo, 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 undo. Okay, here. And on our A, let's go ahead and go into node editing mode. Delete that span there. And let's go into our extend tool and extend from here to create that angular A. And now we could create that illusion that the M is behind the A, which probably would look better, right? So now I need to take my M and join it with a straight line. Okay. And I'm going to take my A. I'm going to offset the A outward at 10,000ths of an inch. I'm going to select my M. Then I'm going to select the boundary line. I'm going to trim, clearing that boundary. And then I'll delete that boundary line. Okay. So now we have the illusion of the A coming down and the M coming behind it. We've got our little spacing just like everything else. I think that'll look better that way instead of the M, instead of the A behind the M. Right? All right. So now that we have that and everything, all of our open vectors. Oh, I got an open vector on the M. Let me go into node editing and find out where he's open at. somewhere. Let's go ahead and delete this point and delete this point. Okay. All right, let's go into our join tool, and on that M, we can go ahead and just click the join tool to close it off, and now we should be good. Select all, open vectors, and it should just be the chain links now. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and kind of focus on how we're going to approach this. Now, looking at these models, other than the cracked, broken ones here and everything, they're pretty much the same design. This link's a little skinnier than the rest and all that, but they're pretty much the same design. So, but I'm not gonna, clean one up and then mirror and copy it. I'll just work the left side and then come back and work the right side. Because there is some differences. This chain link here is skinnier than this one over here, so on and so forth. So I want to keep the design in its original state. And guys, Mike Pearson and Fozzie Bear and everything for pointing that out. And Harvey saw it as well, and Big Daddy Fish and all that stuff. So everybody, thanks for pointing that out. And all, I was taking it as it was. It was closed off. All right. So let's come in here and let's look at our approach. So I'm going to kind of focus here and here and here. So this part of the link back here. So in this area right here, okay, I need that to be one closed vector. Then the C of this link, I need that to be another vector. This one's going to be the hardest to approach because it's like there's a couple of ways that we could do it, but what's going to be the best way to get the look that we want? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to offset my boundary, this boundary going around that. I'm going to offset that outward, that 10,000ths of an inch. And now I'm not trimming with the regular trim tool. I'm going to be interactively trimming. Okay. And I'm also going to take this C here, this part of the C, and I'm going to offset that outward as well. Let's go inward on that one. And that got me up to there. So that'll work. And I'm going to utilize these vectors the best that I can. So let's see if we can undo that. Let me see. Let me go outward again. And see, that creates that outward vector all the way around. And that will allow me to close this one up. So let's start down here real quick. I'm going to use my scissor tool. I'm going to trim, 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 and trim to close off that vector. Okay, so that one's done. I'm going to do the same thing here. Oops, sorry about all the back and forth. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and trim this. And I'm going to trim this and then get rid of that. That'll close that vector off. On up there, it's not going to close it off because we still got this down here. And now I need to take this vector here and I'm going to offset it outward. All right. Now, when I did that, it didn't go in the direction that I needed it to go. So when I offset outward, I get this warning that it's going to cause overlaps. And I want to continue anyway, but the only problem is it doesn't create that offset vector all the way around here. Okay? It doesn't create that offset vector all the way around. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to offset this one inward that 0.010 of an inch. Okay? And that'll give me this outside line here. Okay? And then I can offset that same vector outward. Okay? And that will give me my continuation here, and that will give me my boundary lines. So I will come in and trim here and get rid of this. Trim and get rid of this. And I'm going to leave these for a moment. We'll come back to that. But now this vector is a closed vector. So if I select all open vectors, you know, these two are done. I've just got to kind of continue working around until I get all those closed vectors. All right, so let's look at what I need to do here. So this vector comes around and it connects right here, and I need it to close off this kind of U right here. I need it to close off, so all I have to do on this one is trim that line. It should come around, and I can trim away that. And this now, this one should be a closed vector. I can validate that by here, and it is closed. Okay, so I've just knocked another one off the list. All right, so now over here, I'm working my way up this way now. I'm using the same red boundary, and I'm going to trim this. Okay, let's get rid of this little funky doodad. All right, got a little bit of a node editing issue here. There we go. Okay. So this guy, he comes around, but kind of dead ends here, and I need it to close off to this line up here. So I need to take this line and offset it outward that 0.010 of an inch. And now I have my connection here. Now I can go through and start trimming away. And so now when this created the offset, it created all these funky lines and everything. Let's undo one set of those. All right. And I only need those two sets, so I know what I'm trimming here. And we're going to trim away this line, okay, and that is going to come up, and we're going to trim away, slow down, one thing at a time. We're going to trim away this line and this line, and now this vector is closed. Okay, and so, and as I'm closing these, they're going on to that layer that is red. So I need to be mindful that, hey, I'm creating these offsets and they're red. Now my lines, when I close them, they're going to be red as well. We may want to throw them, when they're done, throw them on another layer, right? So we can kind of see what's going on. And that's exactly what I want to do, because I don't want it to be confusing. I'm using that red visual offset to be my trim line and stuff. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my closed vectors, this guy here, this one is closed, this one is closed, and this one is closed. and I'm going to move them to a new layer, and we'll give this layer a I don't know, something that's not in the red family. Let's go kind of a bright blue. And now I can see, you know, distinctively colors between my black, my blue, and my red lines. Now, this in here, these vectors in here, I don't need them, okay? So those are extra lines that got created that I don't need. So we want to delete them out, and we want to kind of clean up our mess here. But at the same time, I'm still working on this big guy. This guy is not closed off completely yet and everything. So, but before I move on to him, I want to finish up this end, and then I'm going to work my way back up that side, right? So let's go ahead and take this vector here, offset it, make sure my layer 2 is still active. It is. Offset it outward, that 10,000ths of an inch. And then I can come in and trim this line and that line, this line and that line. And now I have closed off this vector, and I can go ahead and just move it over to that layer 3, right? You know, get it blue. So that way all the blue stuff I know is done, right? I also know it's done because I can come in here and go select all open vectors, and you'll see there's only just these couple of pieces left here, and we're good to go. So just kind of, it's a methodical approach. You just got to figure out, okay, how do I want to close this off? How do I want to create these gaps to create the illusion that when it carves, that the links are still overlapping and things. We still have that visual illusion that they're overlapping and stuff. And so what do I need to do? Do I need to offset a line? Do I need to go into node editing and trim something away? And in this case, it's all basically offset, and use that offset as a boundary to close up other vectors. And we're doing it one stage, one section at a time. Okay. All right. So over here in this area, I don't need this line right here, this red line. We can get rid of it. So make sure we go back. We're making sure that we go back and, you know, kind of cleaning up our mess and stuff. This inside red line here, I don't want that. Let's get rid of that. And also this other red line, we'll get rid of that. We'll come back and fix those in a moment. I want to get back to my original vectors. Now right here, my two links are, you know, overlapping one another, if you will. And so I'm going to select this vector. I'm going to select this vector, and I'm going to join it with a smooth curve to kind of close it off here. And then I'm going to take this guy and offset him outward 10,000ths of an inch to create my boundary. And then I'm going to select my shape. I'm going to select my boundary, and I'm going to clear inside that boundary because I want it to redraw that chain link around. This one I'm not trimming. I want to redraw that chain link around, so you know they're overlapping, so this link's kind of going behind it, so it's got that part is missing because it's being covered by the other part. That's the visual. This part, the bottom part here, is missing because this link is on top of it. Okay, so that's the illusion we're creating. All right, so now that I've got this shape fixed down here, I'm going to come all the way up, and I'm going to look, and it looks like my line comes all the way around and joins. And hey, if I go to my join tool, it's a closed vector. Done. Mission accomplished. Great. Let's go ahead and move that bad boy over to the done layer, if you will. And, you know, it's finished. Now, I've got this part of the link right here to contend with. This is part of the link. It's the part that comes up here. And then I've got this part of a link to contend with. and then this part of the link. So there's kind of like three things happening here. Three different pieces still that I have to fix. All right, let's focus down here and let's see what we need to do. Number one is I need to extend this line to here. So let's use the extend tool and extend this line to here. Click, click. You know, click on the line you want to extend, click on the line you want to extend to, and it'll draw that out. And so this shape right here is going to be this link. So I'm going to take this line, I'm going to go ahead and offset it outward, possibly inward, we'll see. Outward 10,000ths of an inch. It went in the right direction, that's great. I'm going to offset this line 10,000ths of an inch, and now I can use my regular scissors and I can come in and clean up. Trim, 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 trim. Okay. And so now this vector is a closed vector right there. All right, so he's done. I can verify he's closed, and I can move him over, or her, or whatever. I can move it. It's not, there's no anatomy there. I can move it over to the done layer so it's blue, and I can work my way up here. Okay. All right, now I'm still using this red line here, right? That's going to kind of be my boundary. So basically, I can go ahead and trim this to that, get that part done at least, right? You know, get that corner made up. Now over here, okay, this link is already closed off, okay? So I need to create this link. This is the last part of the puzzle right here. So I want to offset this outward 10,000ths of an inch, and let's create our shape. So we're going to trim this line away in that way. That creates that corner. Going to come in here and trim this line away and create that corner. And I got two lines here, so let's just pick one and then trim that away to create that corner. All right, so now we have that part. Now the thing that you might ask is, okay, we got that part, but what about this shape? Is there supposed to be something here when it carves? And let's get rid of this line. And right now I'm cleaning up. So let's clean up and get rid of any of our vector lines that don't belong. Let me clean some stuff up here. Delete that out. Let's come up here. This one is a closed vector. I can validate it's closed. Nope, it's still open. So I've got one more place up here to trim right there. Let's go ahead and trim. Okay, now that's closed. And now I can move it over to the done layer. And let's go up here and let's, I keep calling it the done layer. Let's go ahead and, chain done, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be named perfectly. This will be my offset layer, right, that I use for offset lines. And we'll go there. All right, so now the question is on this, let's get rid of these red lines because we're going to be coming back and working on, this link in a moment. But let's get rid of all the red lines and stuff because we're done with this side. But the question that we were talking about a moment ago is, hey, do we need to create this inner shape for when it carves? Is it going to look right? Well, let's find out. So let's select all open vectors and make sure it's only this side that needs to be fixed. It is. And So let's go ahead and come in here, hold down the shift key and deselect this chain for a moment. Oh, let's deselect that. We'll come back and clean that up. But let's do a V-carve toolpath. Reset the preview, preview the visible toolpath. We don't have our extra boundary line around everything, so it's going to carve all the letters down and stuff. We'll create our boundary line in a minute and all. All right, so as far as that goes, we're missing the red link here, right? So we need to create that illusion of that shape there and everything, that this is going into something instead of nothingness, you know. Now, what I want to do is I want to create an offset around all of these. So I'm just going to, for right now, I'm just going to use a box. Just a box. And okay, make sure all that's selected except for this chain link over here. V-carve toolpath with the flat depth. And again, all these toolpaths are getting deleted. They're there for me visually so I can see what my progress is. Reset this preview, preview the visible toolpath. It'll take just a second. I've got the resolution turned up, so we'll let that go. And while that's going, let's go ahead and see what we have, what questions we might have. Audio is clear here. Good. Okay. Why does it make those extra points and sometimes duplicate lines, duplicate forms, etc.? Is it a glitch? So see what I decide at all times. Why does it make those extra points and sometimes duplicate lines? Well, if it hasn't happened in this case that I'm aware of, but in some cases, if I am in one layer, let's say I'm in my original layer and I'm working thinking that I'm working on another layer and I create an offset, or I go to trim something, it trims and kind of closes and it creates that trim vector on my original layer. And then all of a sudden, you know, I didn't realize that. You know, because it threw those original vectors back on there and it creates duplicates. That's why we end up with duplicates and things. Sometimes when we do a trimming, if the lines are like right on top of each other and things, and I trim that line, sometimes when I trim it and it goes to close the line, it actually creates another line and it creates a duplicate. So is it a glitch? Possibly. Or it just might be the computer interpreting, hey, is this what you wanted to do by trimming that line? So it may not be a glitch in things. But that's kind of what happens. All right, so looking at our James text here, our link is missing, right? We need that missing link, that broken link there. So we got to fix it. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back over here. Let's get rid of our border there. And how we're going to create this shape, you guessed it, we're going to offset these three things. We're going to offset this outward. That 10,000ths of an inch. We're going to offset this boundary outward, the 10,000ths of an inch. We're going to offset this one, 10,000ths of an inch. And we're even going to offset this one, 10,000ths of an inch. And this one here. Okay. And from those offsets, we're going to create our inner shape. So let's take our scissor tool and let's start over here, trim. Now you see this line right here, I could trim that, but it's not really trimming. But when I close this tool, it's going to join those two corners. Because that trim tool has the check mark rejoin trimmed objects when that form is closed. When I close this form, rejoin them. So there might be a slight little splinter of an overlap that for some reason, why can't I trim that away? Well, just close your tool and it'll rejoin and connect it back just like it did there, right? All right, so let's come over here and we're going to trim away this line and this line. Here we're going to, we'll fix that, but we're going to trim away that line and that line. It's kind of creating that little recess because of this divot right here, but we'll fix that. We don't need that. And come down here, trim away this line and over here, this one and that one. And presto bingo, we've got our inside link that we were missing. Let's go ahead and make sure that it's a closed vector. Let's select on it. Go to our join tool, and it is a closed vector. Great. But let's go over here and let's fix this right here. I don't necessarily need that, that bump up. So I'm going to go to node editing, and I'm just going to delete that point. Okay. I don't necessarily need that there for the illusion. Now, while I'm here, everything else that's red, get rid of it, or else it'll just become confusing. All these other red lines, those were those offsets that we created just to make that part. We've made the part. Now go in and delete and clean up your mess, right? So we don't have more of a mess. So every one of the red lines are going to get deleted, okay? Except for this red line. It's going to get moved over to the done, chain done, okay? So all these red lines and everything, delete them, right? Clean up your mess. Look around, make sure there are no others. We got one little splinter right there. Let's delete that mess out of there. And there's another something right there. That is going to be node editing. That's two lines that comes into a V right there. We'll fix that when we get to that chain. So now my chain is complete. Okay. And once again, if I put a boundary around it, just for visualization purposes, because when this is all said and done, I'm going to create a complete offset boundary around the whole thing so it has that raised effect. But we can't do that until I finish this chain over here. Okay. But for right now, I'm simulating that by creating this rectangle. That's going to be that extra line that's around. Let's go ahead and select all of this, hold down the shift key, select all of that. I should just group this stuff together, but I don't want to because I'm using those lines and stuff. Let's select this and this. All right, let's create a V-carve, and the boundary out here. Let's create a V-carve toolpath, flat depth, and calculate. Reset the preview. Preview that visible toolpath. Let that run out so we can see what our chain looks like. If our chain doesn't look good, then we'll, on that left side, if it doesn't look like the links are overlapping or something, then we'll go back and figure it out, right? We'll redraw whatever we need to redraw to make it look like those links are overlapping. So let's kind of take a look at what we got here. All right. So we have our red lines kind of defining and everything. Now, the thing about it is our red lines come up here to define this, and I can understand that. That's not a problem. It's creating here, but I don't want it to look like that. It's close, but it's not correct. Meaning that this link, imagine this oval shaped link right here, this link comes across and it's oval, and this is covering, it's coming in the outside. This link is on top of this one. This link comes in, and so this link here, this part of the link is on top of this. But it doesn't look like that because of this odd shape right here. I need to kind of close those off, you know. This should, you know, this should have it more of a straight line here to look like kind of an opening, right? Like there's some kind of holler, there's some kind of opening there. And what it is this link here, we need our separation right here. And it might need even, let's see here, this is over that, so it may even need a straight line coming across here to create this shape, right? So let's go back and look at that. And so imagine, if you will, and I'll take right here, imagine, if you will, I'm using an arc tool, this link here, that's the line tool, Laney, Control Z. Let's grab our arc tool. So here to here, slight curve to it, and from here to here, subtle curve, you know. And so this link has to be kind of closed off. And then this will be a void, and this will be a void. So with those lines that we just kind of drew, they weren't there before, you know, we had to kind of draw them in. That's kind of a subtle curve for that link. Great, we'll go ahead and use it. Let's come in and trim. And we're actually going to trim away this line here to get rid of that opening. Okay, so that creates that hollow void there. We're going to trim away that line there, and this line, of course. And then up here, we're going to trim away this line to create that. And right here, I'm actually okay with that. Let me see here. If this link was coming in around to there, if this link was hollow, we would have an opening right here. So I'm okay with this being a closed vector. Let's go ahead and move that over. Move to done. Okay, I'm okay with that. I believe that will create that illusion. Let's find out, right? It's all just, you know, fix and test, fix and test, fix and test, right? So we're going to turn off these vectors here. Turn these off. Okay, so I got all that selected. One more time, vcarve toolpath, calculate. We'll find that. All right, there's one open vector selected. Let me fix that before I calculate the toolpath. Right click, select all open vectors. Nothing is selected on that side, so I must have had one of these vectors selected by accident. Let's go ahead and make sure that when we deselect this one this time, that everything is deselected. Okay, calculate. Now I got two open vectors selected. Hold on a second. Make sure there's no little pieces of trash somewhere. I'm going to let that ignore. I'm going to let that go, and I'll see where it'll show me where that is. All right, let's reset that preview that visible toolpath one last time, and then we'll work on our other side of our chain and be done. Let's see here. Thanks, Chris. Glad you think it's a great class. Could you mirror the right and left side? Yeah, Harvey, I could, right? I could mirror the right and left side, but they're different. So I'm trying to keep, this is a customer's design that he sent over to me. I'm trying to keep the original, and they're not identical. So if we look, this chain link right here is skinnier than this fat one right here. This link is broke to match or mirror this broken link here, like the chain snapped apart. And so if I mirror this over to here, then I don't really have two separate chains, right? I don't, you know, there's some distinct differences that I need to keep them separate, so I'm not going to mirror them. Let's see here. All right, Jerry says, hey, Laney, sorry, I just arrived and thought you started at 7:15 Central Time, and I hope you post this entire video for me to see so I can learn on that file. Thank you. Jerry, stick with me. We got one more chain to do. Jerry's the customer whose file this is. We started at 7:15, but yes, this video is going to be live. As soon as the class is over, you'll be able to watch it, like rewatch it from the part that you missed. But yeah, it was 7:15 Eastern time because I'm on Eastern time zone. But we still got one more chain to do, so stick around if you can, Jerry, so you can see that process. All right, so looking at our 3D finish cut here, the chain looks exactly like it should. It looks like this link is coming into that link there. That looks more appropriate than it did a few moments ago. Okay, so now we need to come over and we need to do the same thing with this link. And it might be a matter of, you know, hey, where's the best way to start? You know, do we start up here? Do we start down there? Do we start over there? Whatever is going to be the best way to create those shapes, right? Start wherever you want, top, bottom, left, right, back. You know, this back piece and this back piece, same that we did over there. Those are going to be the two easiest to create right away. So let's create them, right? So we're going to take our line here. We're going to offset it outward 10,000ths of an inch. And notice how it did it on the inside too. That's because this line kind of connects all the way up to here. So it is outward on both sides of it. But I don't care about that inside line. I'm not using it. So all I need is this outside line. I can take my scissors and I can now trim away this side of the red line and that. Come over to the other side of this shape, trim away that and that. All right, that completes this part. This is now a closed vector. We can validate that by going into the join tool and it's closed, right? So I can go ahead and move that sucker right over to the done layer, right? Chain done. That one's done, so it should be blue. Work our way across. All right, let's get rid of this red line. We only used it for the purpose of trimming to create that one part right there. Let's get rid of it. Clean up your mess as you go, and you won't create more of a mess, and it'll be less like, oh man, I'm confused because all these lines are everywhere. What's going on? You know, do a little section, clean up your mess, redo, you know, it doesn't matter. Just clean it up. All right, so now remember this shape down here, we need it to kind of connect around to this, around to here, right? And so we'll use this line again, okay, which is actually tied into this line, right? Kind of defeats the purpose there. But we'll fix that in a moment, but we're going to use this line and actually we're going to use this line. We'll use this one. And let's offset it outward 10,000ths of an inch. Now notice it went inward, okay? That's the way the line is. So we need to go inward instead this time. So to create that line outward. All right, so that will connect these two lines together. Great, I can trim that up. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's work our way from top to bottom over here. So start over here, trim, trim. All right, that's that side. Come over here, trim, trim, trim. Great, that's connected those lines together. Now let's come up here. We don't need this red line. It has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. So let's go in there and let's get rid of it, clean it up, and all that stuff, all that happy jazz. You know, let's see here. We might be able to use that. Bear with me a second. Bear with me a moment. Yeah, let's get rid of that. All right, clean up our mess. All right, now this line is red because when we trimmed, or when we offset it and everything, and we trimmed to create this part, it put it on that active layer, right? It put it on that offset line layer that we're in. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to move this chain. It's not done yet, so I want it to be black lines. So I'm going to move it back to my layer 1, right? I want it back as black lines because I still got to go back and create this part, right? We're not ready for it yet, but it turned it red. It threw it on that layer, and I don't want that. So again, cleaning up the mess before we move forward. All right, down here we got the other end of this that we got to do. So we'll select this chain. We're going to offset that out inward. Okay. And you're like, why'd you go inward when it's supposed to be outward? Because of the way this line is drawn, because it actually connects up here and all. By offsetting it inward, it brings the line to the outside. That's what I need. I need that line to the outside because that's what I'm trimming to. So I can come over here and trim, trim, trim and trim. Close that. All right, this vector is now done. It is a closed vector. Great. Let's move it over to the done layer. Move it over to the chain done. All right, it's blue. Working our way around now. All right, let's go ahead and get this one, right? That's another piece that we can do easily. Take this line, offset it outward. This time it will be outward. And take our scissors, trim away this and that, and that. All right, so that part is now closed. We can move that to the done layer. Okay, blue chain. That's what we want to see is blue chain. Let's get rid of that little piece of trash right there. Okay, this piece here. This one, we're going to offset it outward, 10,007 inch to create that line out here. Okay, to create that line right here. And no, I need to go inward, Laney. Inward, bud. Inward. Inward. Oh, you son of a gun. So that's not going to create that line the way I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this overlap right here to close off this vector. Let's trim that away. All right, now we still got to create this shape out here. You know, we're not we're not abandoning it, but we're trimming it away because I need this vector to be closed for the moment so I can offset it outward, right? Because I got to be able to use that offset to create this part right here. Okay, I'm actually going to, yeah, outward. I was about to say I might bring it inward and create this, make this link smaller, but let's go outward. Okay, and now once again we can trim this line and that line. Okay, so we're working on this piece right here. We'll fix this in a moment when we do our offset up there, but let's kind of focus up here. This is actually going to, this part is actually going to, remember this is going to be hollow in here, right, between here. So I still need this line to kind of come up and connect into there. So I need to go ahead and create my offset on this part, outward, offset, outward. Oh, notice it went the wrong direction. Let's go inward. There we go. And we can go ahead and let's start up here at the top, trim this line and this line. Let's at least get that corner defined. Again, we got to focus here as well. But right here, we need to create kind of a curve, a natural curve. Now, I'm just going to use the arc tool and I'm just going to pick a spot, any spot right about there looks good to me. I'm going to come over here to right about where it naturally kind of, there's a little point there, right? So I'm going to kind of snap to that point. And then as far as the arc, I'm just going to have it be a subtle, you know, just a subtle, and zoom in so you can get your subtleness about like that. And trim away this line and that line to create that part. Okay, so now join with a straight line, join with a straight line, select this and join it with a straight line. That'll shoot that line across there. Offset our boundary, offset the boundary, that 0.010 of an inch, that will be outward. And then we're going to trim just like we did before. We can use our scissor tools or we could clear to the boundary, right, with our subtract tool. I'm just going to use the scissor tools. It'll be just as quick and easy for me right now. So scissors, trim, trim, get rid of that line, come over here, and get rid of that line, and there's my little link is closed off. Get rid of all this excess red. Like I said, all that red goes away. Delete all the way around. Cleaned up. Nice. All right, this guy is a closed vector now. And we can move him to done. Move to done. So it'll be blue. All right, cool. This one is done. So it can get moved to the done layer. All right, so this whole link right here and this half link is done. All I got is this top half to go. And we're ready to kind of create our final offset around it to create that illusion of a nice carve. And we'll go from there. Thanks. Thanks to all you people, all you folks for sticking around. If you like this class and you're kind of picking up something, on how to look at and close join vectors, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel a lot. Jonathan Madigan, that second section of chain is not right. That second section of chain is not right. This link comes underneath this one, over, underneath this one, over. Jonathan, wait till I get the chain done because it is right. It is right. All right. All right. Jonathan, let me know what you're seeing that I'm not seeing, bud, because this link goes through the loop, around, behind. This link goes through behind this one, behind that one, and in to connect those two links together. This comes behind, this is over, just like we got here. It's right, man. Let me know what you're seeing that I'm not. All right, let's go ahead and we'll delete that red line right there. And we'll fix this right here. While we're here, that thing's been bothering me. Let's go into node editing mode. And let's delete that span right there. Okay. That double line. All right. So now this part here, okay, this part here is nearly a closed vector. But we got to fix this right here. Okay. This line comes straight across, and it actually needs to come around like that. So we need to take our scissor and trim that line, right? So that shape comes around. Over here, we're going to go ahead and offset this line right here outward. That 10,000, oh, the other direction. So it'll be inward. That 10,000ths of an inch. And with our scissors, we're going to, let's move down here so we can all see. We're going to trim away this line here. That line, oops, be careful what we trim. That line there and this line here. Got a little bit of a little overlap right there, but that's okay. When I close the tool, it'll join those two corners for me. And so now this shape comes around, and it is a closed vector. All right, and we've got our loop in there, and that might have been what you were looking at, Jonathan Madigan, as far as that loop right there. As far as that second link, that's might be what you were looking at. I had to trim that line away to create that loop to finish off this piece. All right, let's move this over to the done layer. Chain done. All right, that leaves us with our three pieces here. This link right here and this link right here. Let's do this one. Very simple. Let's offset this line outward, 10,000ths of an inch. Let's offset this line outward, 10,000ths of an inch. Actually inward. It's going in the wrong direction, so Control Z to undo. Inward, 10,000ths of an inch. Take our scissors, trim, trim, over here, trim, trim, over here, trim, 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 triminy, trim, triminy, trim, trim, tree. All right, let's get rid of that line as well. All right, so now we have a closed off vector there. We can validate that with the close tool. It is closed, great. Let's move that over to done. Okay, blue, love seeing those blue vectors. We got a red vector right here. Let's go ahead and delete that. We don't need that red line there. Make sure there is no other red anywhere else that we need to get rid of. Cleaning up our mess. All right, everything looks good. All right, so now we have this link, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is let's get this back end down here done. I'm going to take this shape right here and offset it outward, that 10,000ths of an inch, so that I can come in with my scissors and let's get this back end done. Oh, I can't trim there. It's not extending to the line. So let's close that for a minute. Use our extend tool and extend from here to there. Now we can trim. Trim that away. Over here, trim that line and that line away. Wonderful. And so half of it's done, but we got the other half to do. So we will join this with a straight line, shoot that line straight across there. Take our outside border right there and offset it outward, that 10,000ths of an inch. Okay. And I'm just going to trim to that, right? Trim, trim. Over here. Trim, trim. Right? And so we don't need the rest of this red line, so we can select it and delete. All right, all the way around. Oh, don't do that. Control Z. I've still got a connection right there. We got to trim it. Trim that connection. There we go. Very good. Now we can come over here and select that red line and delete it. Clean up our mess. All right, this vector is now closed, so we can go ahead and move it to the done layer. Okay, so that leaves this here. Now I got one red line there, and I didn't delete that red line on purpose because we've got to create this link here, but it's missing a leg. We got to make that leg, okay? And it's missing the curve here. We got to make that curve. All right, so first thing I'm going to do with my scissors is I'm going to go ahead and just work on this corner since it's the only corner that's intact. Let's trim here and here. All right, so now that corner is defined, right? I've cleaned up my red line by trimming. We got another red line right here we need to delete. Trim that away, all that good stuff. All right, so I've got this corner defined. Now I need to create this other half here, this other half. All right, so I'm going to offset this one outward, 10,000ths of an inch. Going to also offset this one outward, 10,000ths of an inch. Okay, that's going to give me those two lines right there, left and right side. Trim away. Let's go ahead and we'll do the right side. Trim, trim. So, oops, be careful what we trim. Over here on the left side, trim and trim. All right, and now we can get rid of our red line. Delete that. This border right here, we don't need that because that was our offset. And oh, be careful what we delete. Now we got another line connected somewhere right down here, this corner. Let's get that corner cleaned up. Now we can come in and clean up our red line over here, this guy. Okay. All right, so that link is done. It is closed. And we can move that over to the done layer. And we have finished our chain on that side. All right, let's get rid of this border. This border wasn't part of the design. And let's right click and select all open vectors. Okay. Now notice it did not say there are no open vectors in the design, and we didn't get that message. So there's still an open vector somewhere. And it's already selected, so I'm going to zoom into it. I'm going to click on this magnifying glass, this zoom selected object. I just told the software to select that open vector. Now I'm zooming into it, and it's going to bring me into this general area here. And that open vector is actually right here. It's right here. Can't hardly see it and everything, but if I come over here and turn off my done layer, it's right there, right? That's why layers is so helpful. So let's go ahead and delete that, turn my done layer back on. We're good to go. Okay, so now I should be able to select all open vectors. There's still one more hiding somewhere, and it's this little speck right there. Okay, so we can go ahead and hit delete on that. And now we should be, still got one more. All right, zoom into the selected item. It's still in this general area. Let's see if my eyes are failing me. Right there. Okay. Now before I delete that, I'm going to turn this back on and make sure it's not part of a design and all, and it's not. It's just an extra vector that was left over. So I can delete that. Wonderful. Turn that back on. Select all open vectors. Oh, God, there's one more? Come on. Where is it hiding at? Where is it hiding at? Zoom selected. There it is. Where was that thing at? It was that little bitty splinter right there. No big deal. Okay. Select all open vectors. No open vectors in the design. We're done, right? All right, now as it stands, the way this design is created, let's get rid of all these toolpaths. These were all of our sample toolpaths here. Delete all. And do not click anything. Okay, click OK. All right, cool. All right, we're going to go File, Save As, right? And we're going to just call this James Group Finished. And I'm also going to export this out as a DXF, but I'm not quite finished with it as a DXF yet, before I make the DXF. But what I want to do is I want to create the toolpath, right? vcarve toolpath. I'm going to use a flat depth, and I'm going to calculate. Now, when it carves this way with no outside vector around it, it carves, I don't like the way it looks, right? So, but it's not my design, it's Jerry's design, right? But I don't like the way it looks because it carves everything down, okay? I want those raised up, and I want the things around it carved down. So we're going to create a vector offset around all of our chain and everything to create that additional line, you know, because that's what it looks like it carves down, right? You got all these skinny little, let's turn the colors off here and let's look at this. We got these skinny little lines right here. These little V-shaped lines are not skinny, but they're V-shaped lines and all. And there's absolute no detail in that whatsoever. Here's what I want to do. I want to take this and I want to offset it outward this time, but I want to go about either an eighth or a quarter. Let's look at a quarter first. Yeah, I like the quarter. I'm going to hold down the shift key. Hold down the shift key, and I'm going to deselect this border right here. And everything else that's pink, I'm just going to hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of that. All I wanted was this offset border right here. Now, when I come in and create this toolpath, if I add this offset border right there, calculate that. We'll fix this. I'll show you what that is in just a moment. There's a couple of lines that are pretty close to touching. By adding that offset border, when we carve this toolpath, we get that raised effect. We get that reversed effect where everything around the letters and the chains get carved away. And, you know, we get that raised look. And now that's what it's supposed to look like, right? That looks much better than the other way. And everything. So I'm going to save this DXF with that boundary, that extra boundary that was created around there and everything. Now, before I go doing all that, I want to see what that warning is telling me, that there's an overlap, intersection, or something kind of happening in the design. So I'm going to use the vector validator here, and I'm going to validate my issues and find out what my issues are. And I have 1, 0 link span. That means that there's two nodes that are on top of each other and there's not a span in between it. I can fix that very easily by clicking the button clear up 0 link spans. Okay. And so I still have 2 intersections. So let's search selected, and they're right here on the M and the U. Okay. And so the U is kind of, you know, overlapping on that M right there. And it didn't really kind of take on the shape, you know, and all. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that down to this level. Unless I want the M to look like it's overlapping, but it can't. The U's got to be the one that's underneath the M. So I'm simply just going to go into node editing mode on this here. I'm going to basically delete this little curve right there. I'm going to hit delete on those points. Whoops. Hold on now. Hold on. Don't hit the delete key. Hit the letter D key, Laney, the letter D. I'm getting rid of these. Oh, come on now. Let's zoom in a little tighter. I'm selecting these right here, and I'm hitting the letter D to delete those, so I kind of have a straight line. And I'm going to select this node right here. Okay. I'm going to hold down my shift key, select this node, and I'm going to hit the letter Y. I'm going to use the letter Y to bring that down into alignment. Now I'm going to select this point first, and then this one. And again, I'm going to hit the letter Y to bring that into alignment, right? And I don't need that extra node right there, so I'm going to delete that point, right? I only need point A to B, straight line. I actually don't even need that node right there in the middle. Okay, point A to B, nice and clean. All right, so now if I go and select everything, go into my vector validator tool in VCard mode, I should have no overlaps, no zero length spans, nothing. Now this is a clean vector that I can go ahead and export, file, export DXF, and it'd be a file that I could send to Jerry. And I'm going to call it the final revised. Okay. And I'm going to save that DXF, and now that's a file that I can send back to them and say, hey, here's your file, it's done. So I've imported this DXF, I've cleaned it up, closed all those open vectors. I even added an additional vector. Now Jerry has the option of using that vector in the carving or not to create that look there or that other look, right? Personally, I like this one, but again, it's not my carving, right? So that is how we would import a DXF file and clean it up and close the vectors. All right. All right. So hopefully you found something useful out of this class. It's going to be our shortest class. We're going to be ending here in just about 3 minutes. But hopefully you found something useful out of this. The next time you import a DXF or a EPS or an AI file or whatever, or heck, you create a design and you end up accidentally creating open vectors for some reason, you know. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how to use your extend tool, how to use your offset tool, and your trim, as well as your scissors, your interactive trim, right? All of these things in combination together to create what's happening. Now, Jerry, you'll be able to watch this class from the beginning, this video when it's live. You'll be able to watch this whole thing to see exactly how I started from the J, A, M, E, S group. You know, we did one letter at a time. We cleaned all those up before we got into the chains. You came in right at our last section there. You're catching the last part, but there's some other options and stuff that we did in the James group and all to clean it up and get rid of those. Watch this and you'll be able to do it yourself. I know you wanted to, you asked me to, you know, you gave me permission to do this class or use this file in this class so you could see, have a video of how to do it. And so you could do it yourself, so you could learn how to do it yourself. But I'm also going to email you the finished DXF so you'll have that as well. All right, everybody, let's see if we have any other questions here. Let's see here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Cartoon drawing, I think. Bear with me a second, guys and girls. Ha, Laney, one of your best classes. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you like that. And if you like these kind of classes where it's kind of like, you know, closing vectors or learning a certain tool or whatever, let me know, right? We'll kind of do more of those short to that. Let me just go through and make sure. 56 watching, only 26 likes. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Blue Knight. I appreciate you. Do you offset the way you are doing? Do the offset the way you are doing, which will do better. Yep. Okay. Exactly. Let's see here. Jerry, that was Jerry's comment. Good job, homie. Thanks, Clay. I appreciate it. Good job, homie. And sorry, guys, I'm looking over to the right. Got my glasses on. I should be able to read that, but I'm leaning over to look at the comments. They're so small. Very cool. Thanks. Let's see here. Can you show moving a node by entering a number and moving your mouse direction you want? Yeah, Todd, I sure can. Yes, I sure can. Do you have any videos on editing pictures? Mark, no. I sure don't. This basically, imagine if I brought this image in and I traced it and turned that image into a vector, and I'm cleaning this vector up. That's, you know, I can do that with an image and stuff as well. Like it might be somebody's logo or something like that, but it's the same process here. You know, when we're dealing with open vectors or something, or we might even be able to just be dealing with crooked lines and we want to straighten those lines up and all, which we're going to show here in just a second based on Todd's request about moving nodes. But I don't have one specifically on cleaning up pictures, and I definitely don't have one on like actual cleaning up a photograph, like a realism photograph with background and clearing and all. That would be something outside of the Vectric program. I don't have a video on that. But as far as importing like an image, clip art image, it could be a logo, it could be something like that, and cleaning that up and getting it ready for carving, absolutely we could do that. I've got a couple of good example pictures that I could do that as a sample. Let's talk about, Todd asked if I could show when we're node editing how we can take, and if I have a selection of nodes, let's say I have a selection of nodes here, if I drag this the selection of nodes to the left, but I want it to go a certain distance, all I have to do is move the mouse in that direction that I want to go and pause, and then type in the value 0.125 and hit enter, and it'll move over that 1/8 of an inch. So let's undo that, of course. If I were moving these to the right and I type in that value 0.125 and hit enter, it's going to move those nodes that I have selected to the right, you know, whatever direction I pull it with my mouse. Let's come in here with a rectangle. And on a rectangle, we have 4 nodes, right? If I wanted to insert a point here and pull this point out, and I wanted that point to be, let's say, 1/4 of an inch, I'll just type in 0.25, and you know, I've got that now, that 1/4 of an inch from where it was, creating that little arrow. If I pulled it out more and said, okay, I want to go 1 inch, then it's going to pull it out 1 inch, kind of thing. If I need to align a node with another, I select the node I want to align to. Then I select the node I want to align, and if I need to move left and right, that is the x-axis. Okay, so I hit the letter X on the keyboard. If it is up and down, that is the y-axis, so I hit the letter Y on the keyboard, so it pulls it in alignment. Always select the node you want to align to first, and then the node you want to align last. So if I select this node first, that's my align to node. If I select this last, that's the node I want to align. I hit the letter X on the keyboard to pull that into alignment. Now, if I just wanted to take them, these nodes, and I can even pull diagonally. Now let's pull out first, let's select all of these nodes here. There we go. If I pull this out, and let's go 1.5 inches and hit enter, I can pull that over. But I can also go diagonally. If I pull a node down in this direction, I can also go 0.5 enter, and it's going to continue in that direction that I'm pulling that node. Right? It's going to continue whatever direction I'm pulling it. I can pull it left, right, up, down, diagonal, and I can type in the value of how far I want that node to move, you know, 0.25 enter, and it's going to go into that direction. Okay? And then, of course, I can clean everything up by hit the letter Y on that, select, I'll use this node first and this, and hit the letter X. I'll select that middle node again, select that, hit the letter X, and then I can actually take and yeah, we'll pull this down, whatever the case may be, and all that kind of stuff. Have some fun with it. So that's how you would move. So you select the nodes you want to move them in whatever direction, and you type in a value on how far you want it to move. Okay. Now when we're doing that with an object, like if I move this object to the left and I type in a value, It works in node editing mode, but I don't think it really works here. So let's find out. Let's go here. I'm going to type in 2 inches and hit enter. And that, that wasn't 2 inches, So let's, let's find out. We'll use a guideline. Let's see if this works. We'll use a guideline and snap it right to the center there. We'll make another guideline relative 2 inches away. Relative 2 inches to the right. There we go. All right, if I select this and I pull this to the left and type in 2 and hit enter, it was over 2, right? And I'm not even in node editing mode. Did you know you could do that? Huh? Right. So you can do that. Just be mindful that whatever direction you're pulling up or down, you keep that left mouse button held down, move it in the direction you want to move. I'm going to move that 5 inches down, and that was a weird movement. Let's try that again. Let's get that there. Move that down 5 inches, and it's going to move 5 inches down, right? All right, cool. So we're learning new things every day. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get these guidelines out of the way. We're going to call this done. I appreciate your time. I hope Todd, I hope that answered your question as far as showing you that. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. Can you do just one also? Yes, Todd, you can do just one node also, one at a time. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch. I was just grabbing multiples, but you can do one node. You can move a node at a time. Paul, yep, we start at 7:15 Eastern time every Tuesday night. But don't worry, if you're just now jumping in, the class is ending right now, but the video will be live as soon as it ends on the channel. You can go back and watch it at your leisure. It's there for you to watch. When do you have live videos to show new here? Mark, every Tuesday night we stream live from 7:15 p.m. every Tuesday evening. And right at the end of that class, that video is live, and it's recorded during the live session. And it's live on the channel, ready to watch as soon as the class ends. You can go back and watch it. All right, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate you. I've said that 100 times. I'm going to say it for the final time right now. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Jerry, I'll send this file over to you, but watch that video and play with it yourself. All right, until next time, we'll see you soon.